One of our viewers has this: does the inflammatory approach of entertainment-style pundits like Glenn Beck and Ann Coulter hurt the conservative cause?
Well, I'm not a fan of that, and you could put, I guess, Keith Olbermann on the other side and some of the MSNBC folks. I do two shows on a regular basis. I do the NewsHour with Jim Lehrer and Meet the Press. And there we have very good discussion that I'm proud to be a part of. I feel really good when I leave the sets of those shows. And we get pretty good ratings, in fact, quite good ratings, and better than a lot of those cable shows. And so I don't understand why more people do it. C-SPAN does it. Has very high-level discussions. And so, I think the kind of stuff that we do is good for the country. And I think the kind of stuff that Glenn Beck and Ann Coulter do is a form of entertainment, which, it's bad for the country. It leads to a style of misinformation where I spoke earlier of the confirmation bias, where you just want to hear things that tell you how right you are all the time. And I think a lot of what those shows, whether it's Ed Shultz or Ann Coulter, that's what it is. And they're not looking at problems which are real, which the real problems in the world are complicated. And if you turn it into a morality play, you're doing harm to the country.
What about Rush Limbaugh?
I'm not a huge fan of him. He's not a huge fan of me. I do think he's witty. He's at least a good entertainer. I listen to him a fair bit. I think some of what he says, and his audience, it's interesting, if you look at his audience, they're very well informed about politics. If you give them questions, who's the Chancellor of Germany, they can answer that question. They also have a lot of misinformation. If you ask them certain other things that go against what Rush tells them, they don't know the full range of the facts. And so I think he's not in Glenn Beck's league. I think he's a more responsible figure. The final thing to be said about all these people, including Rush, who has such a large audience, people like to listen. A lot of people like me listen, but don't particularly go with Rush when it comes to voting. And so, for example, Rush Limbaugh campaigned for 3 or 4 years against John McCain. And John McCain still managed to win the Republican primary in New Hampshire and in South Carolina and in Florida. And so a lot of people listen to the Rush Limbaughs or the Ann Coulters of the world, but that doesn't mean it influences how they vote. A friend of mine who's a political consultant says Rush Limbaugh can't deliver a pizza. He can't deliver votes. And so it's important to distinguish between those who are listened to for entertainment and for information and how people actually think.